numbers and names, packed up our lives and began once again. We serve in the shadows, we carry the weight with stories that matter, don't let them wait. Every story matters, from bases to war zones, from tearful reunions to cold nights alone. Spouses and veterans, hearts that won't quit, telling the truth about all of it.
Okay, so welcome back, everyone. I have a very special veterans in episode for you guys, and it's just another day in the life as a military wife, of course. And you know what? I'm human, so things might be a little glitchy because yeah. But I want to introduce Brooks and George, two amazing veterans who are joining me for this conversation about Veterans Day. Um, George, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself first, and then Brooks, you can introduce yourself for those who've not seen the previous episodes where you've hung out on my channel.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. Hello, Brooks. And again, my name is George. I am a 7-year Army veteran. I got out back in 2019 due to some medical injuries I sustained. Currently, I work in my local county, and I love community service work. So I look forward to this topic of veterans and Veterans Day.
Okay, Brooks, your turn. Take it away.
Hey, George, Sam. My name is Brooks. I did 8 years in the Army in the infantry and 1 deployment to Afghanistan. When I got out, I did a little bit as an electrician and then trying to start a real estate business right now. But I'm excited to talk about whatever we're talking about today.
Well, thank you guys. I have been a little cheeky and not really given you a lot of information on what we're talking about. So thanks for putting up with me on that. But I thought it might be fun to have veterans talk about how they feel about Veterans Day. So here's the first question for both of you. Brooks, we'll have you go first and then George, but what does Veterans Day mean to you personally? And has that meaning changed over time since you've left the military?
I love the question. Man, I have so many good memories just growing up with family in the military. Specifically, my grandfather was in the Navy, and he was on some sort of honor guard or color guard in his service. And I remember growing up, we would do a flag retiring ceremony over the campfire, and he would play his bugle, and it just created like a sense of honor about military service, and I always looked up to that, and then eventually participated in the color guard and the honor guard as well, which I really enjoyed. But I'd say there was one particular Veterans Day. I was at Utah State University, and some retired veteran spoke. Can't remember his name, but I just remember it touched my heart, and it kind of spoke to the values I believe in, and ultimately, all those moments probably built the desire to serve my country in me, and so I definitely look at Veterans Day fondly for that reason. But I've also always respected veterans, and as a veteran, I guess George might feel similar, but I think we look at the older veterans as giants, in that they served almost in a higher capacity in some ways, But I guess with more and more time out of the service, I look back and say, no, I did. If they were serving at my time, they would have been doing the same things, deployed to the same place, and so I think with more time out of the Army, I value the service I did give as a veteran, and have even more respect for those still serving right now, including spouses like you, Sam. Like, most people don't understand how much of a sacrifice it is on the families and the spouses. And so that's something I always think about on Veterans Day. My sister-in-laws that are also military wives, I always make sure and thank them on Veterans Day for their sacrifice and service. And I think that well, you can see that I got my flag flying here, but I think I'm proud to be a veteran, and I'm grateful that you're doing this and kind of exposing some topics and getting veterans to talk more and get it out. I hope this influence grows. I'll leave it to you, George.
Yeah, thanks, Brooks, and thanks, Sam, again for having me. I think I feel the same as Brooks. Like, I'm a generational Army person. I've had family members in the Army. My dad himself was a Vietnam vet. My grandparents served. In fact, going down my line of family members, I don't remember how many greats it is, but one of my great grandparents actually came over here from Spain, fought in the Mexican Revolution against Spain, for Spain. When Mexico won its independence, he stayed in Mexico, got buried, and then became a U.S. citizen when Texas became part of the United States, and was apparently part of the American cavalry as well in Texas. So I come from a long line of Army people, except for one random uncle who joined the Air Force. We don't talk about him. But no, so I come from a long line of Army, and I actually didn't realize that when I joined the Army myself. I knew my dad was a veteran. He never talked about his service, though. So growing up, Veterans Day was a bit of a mystery for me. While I knew my dad was a veteran and I knew I had veterans in the family, being a Vietnam vet kind of stuck hard for them. So we never really celebrated Veterans Day. But after joining the military, after serving and deploying and seeing all my family and friends that did it, it became something different for me. And like you, Brooks, you do look at prior generations as being larger than life. You look at them, and so especially those from a generation of Vietnam and stuff, I tend to look at them a little bit differently. Not in a bad way. I tend to look at them with a little bit more respect because of what they had to go through, not only over there but coming home. And so I try to show my respect to them by just thanking them every chance I can. I don't always do it, but I if I see them with the veterans hat on and it says Vietnam, I try to thank them. So to me, Veterans Day represents thankfulness for the prior generations and even current generations for their sacrifice. And like you, Brooks, I thank families too, because I was married when I was in. My wife sacrificed just as much as I did. My kids sacrificed just as much as I did. So I thank military families, spouses, dependents, everything, because the veteran themselves cannot do what they do in a family unit without the family itself, in my view.
No, I can see that. Moms, I think, also have a rough time. When I had to be an SFRG leader and I was coordinating with the moms of the single soldiers, they have it rough, because at least with the wives, we get to be there. We get to see you day in and day out. We get to check in. We know where you are mentally and how you're doing. For single soldiers, their parents really struggle to know how to support them because they're not there day in, day out, seeing what they're going through and trying to help them through it. And so I think military parents don't get enough, kudos for the support that they give their service members as well. So yeah, it's a team effort. And honestly, the best service members, the best soldiers, airmen I've ever met, Marines, they have a supportive family. Most of them have a supportive family or they found a support system. Maybe if they didn't have a supportive family, they found good mentors in the military. But a support system is huge for our veterans and our service members. So thank you guys for those thoughts. I appreciate that. That's right on. Um, okay, so here to a little more lighthearted-ish topic of Veterans Day. What do you guys do on Veterans Day now? Because Brooks, you talked about what you did as a kid and how that impacted you. George, you talked about how it really wasn't discussed because Vietnam was hard on the Vietnam veterans when they came home and didn't get their support. So how do you, going forward, what do you do on Veterans Day as a veteran? George and then Brooks.
Yeah, so my family doesn't celebrate Veterans Day in the traditional sense. We don't have like barbecues or anything like that. Mainly because of where we live, we're pretty rural in my area, so we don't have a big community to pull from when it comes to that. However, we do engage in activities where, hey, we support these veterans. So our local VFW chapter, my local church, sometimes does certain things. A church in neighboring towns will do certain things. So we will go to those, parades, events, things like that. And like I said, we will thank veterans as they go by. I know several veterans myself, and they do the whole barbecue, family gathering thing. I know a few years back when I initially got out of the military, it was a weird time because when I got out, it was right before COVID, and I mean like months just before COVID. So I wanted to do those things. I wanted to do the whole family barbecue and get all my veteran family members together and do all these things, but we just couldn't. And then it just kind of fell by the wayside. And now going forward, I actually plan next year's Veterans Day to actually pull everybody together to my rural property and, have a barbecue, have everything together. And I know my uncle down in the valley, he puts together a massive Veterans Day barbecue where he not only feeds the family, but he actually invites random veterans that he knows to come in and just partake as well, whether they be somebody he knows or somebody he just met at Walmart that day. Like, it's kind of cool. So I want to do something like that. But Veterans Day for us was always a taboo subject. And when I say my dad hated his military service, I can't say he hated it, but he really had a hard feeling about it, to the point that he actually didn't want to partake in any kind of veterans activities, VA benefits, nothing like that. He wanted nothing to do with the military because of the way he was treated coming out. And so that kind of, I'm having to shift my mentality a little bit thinking about that. So yeah, it's a bit of a change and a culture shock for me, because like I said, growing up, it was never really a thing. And so now I want it to become more of a thing in my life, to support my fellow brothers and sisters that serve, their families as well. So hoping to get better equipped for it next year.
That makes sense. How about you, Brooks? What do you do for Veterans Day? Brooke, you're still
Said
muted.
George.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Now I think
Yes?
you froze.
Okay.
Okay, now you're good.
Like what you said, George, I think I agree with that. A lot of veterans have had different experiences, and so that that does kind of dictate how they feel on Veterans Day and what they would do, whether they want to celebrate it or not. I think that's a good point. Some veterans don't want to celebrate because they have parties. They don't feel like celebrating. But I personally, I look at the day of remembrance, kind of like Memorial Day. In fact, both holidays, we just watch movies as a family, talk about it. We cook up some good food and spend time together, and it's just a day to talk about sacrifices made, and create a time to kind of have stories over the campfire, kind of a thing. And that's kind of how it's been for the last few years. That's kind of how we celebrate, is trying to remember, I guess. Remember sacrifices, remember those still serving. Something that I do, I guess you could say, a way to celebrate that I do is I reach out to the people that I know. My brother, who's still in the Air Force, I always reach out and wish him a happy Veterans Day, thank him for his service. Reach out, like I said earlier, to my sister-in-laws who are military spouses, and then I reach out to some of my buddies that I served with, see how they're doing. I think a good way to celebrate Veterans Day is to check on your fellow veterans and see how they're doing and see if you can help them out. But yeah.
No, that's a really good point. And there's so many times I've met veterans who just feel isolated and alone, and it's good to check in on your buddies on those days. There's times I've met people in our congregation who I've known for a while, and then all of a sudden I find out they're a veteran, and I'm like, what? How did I not know that? Because they were like your dad, George, where they just didn't want to talk about it, and I'm like, okay, I get that now. And so it's a whole spectrum. And so people who are, this Veterans Day, when you're encountering veterans, maybe they want to talk about it, maybe they don't want to talk about it. Maybe they're feeling alone. And if you do know a veteran who you're worried about, check in on them, not just on Veterans Day, check in on them regularly. They need encouragement. They need to know that they're cared about and they're thought about. And that is super important as part of the veterans community. I'm learning more and more just with everyone I've met. Okay. Let me see. Okay, here's one I have for you guys, kind of going along the lines of what I was just saying. Are there ways that your community or your family have helped you feel like your service is valuable? Or if how could families or communities help their veterans feel valuable, not just on Veterans Day, but also on Veterans Day? And okay, giving you 5 seconds for this one, and then Brooks, you're gonna go first, and then George. We're gonna keep it interesting on this. Keep flipping back and forth.
Okay. Love the question. So personally, I would say repetition. Like, I was one of those guys getting out with some hard feelings, don't want to talk about it, and I didn't want to. I would gracefully take thank yous for your service and stuff like that, but I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to talk about it. My wife even wanted to build me like like one of those boxes with memorabilia, and I shut her down on that originally. But I think repetition, meaning like, I guess a good way to help veterans is just to keep telling them, because eventually, I kind of came around to realizing, I did serve my country, and I started to process it and think about it differently. And I think that part of that from family is just a lot of continually trying to, whether it's listen or or thank or whatever. That brings up a good one, is listening. I'm sure you both know, being able to talk about it, even for other veterans that being able to tell the stories, it just helps, makes it feel like the service was appreciated or valued. And it also, it's funny, telling stories is there's always a sense of embellishment, but when your family can tolerate that over the years, I feel like that aids as well. But yeah, what about you, George?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same too. Like, your family has to support you. And like I said, I come from a generational family of Army. So I have those stories that they can relate to and that they can help me process. I didn't, when I got out, the way I got out kind of put a bitter taste in my mouth, not for the military itself, but just circumstances behind it. But when I talked to my family about it, it was different than if I just talked to some person on the street, because they had those experiences going back, so they could help me get those things. But I remember my uncle, specifically my uncle, the one that does the barbecues that just invites everybody. He is very loud about his veteran service, rightfully so. Like, he should be proud and loud about it. So he never gave me an opportunity not to talk about it. So he always encouraged me to talk about it. So which actually helped me pull me out of my shell, I think, faster than I would have done naturally. Because like you, Brooks, and Sam, I'm pretty sure your husband can verify. Like, you see and hear and do things in the military that sometimes you just want to forget about. But sometimes talking about it too at the same time helps. So, but growing up in the family the way I did, you just didn't talk about these things. So when I say my father, I'm talking about my biological father. He died back in 2005, and then my stepfather became a bigger part of my life, who was also an Army veteran as well as a Vietnam vet. So I had both perspectives from a Vietnam standpoint. One who joined, and one who volunteered, went to Vietnam, did his service, and hated it. And then one that was drafted, went to Vietnam, did his service, and talked about it. So I had both sides of the spectrum here. So it was looking back on it, I'm like, I can talk about these things. And like you, Brooks, I view Veterans Day as a support system where you support the veteran to your right and to your left, and their families. Like, you give them an outlet, whether you like them or not. Give them an outlet to speak. And when I talk to my family, especially my uncle, he is very loud, and he pulls those answers out of you whether you like it or not. Like, and he can make it pretty funny too.
Good for him. That, I think, is not the answer I expected from both of you guys, but I love it. It is actually a much easier answer than I think people realize. I think sometimes people and communities feel like we have to do some sort of big spectacle or give you something for free or whatever. And both of you, the thing that matters most is people just wanting to listen. And that costs nothing except for time. And that's something really easy that people can do. And I'm really grateful for that answer, actually. I wasn't expecting it, and I think it's perfect. Um, that leads me kind of into what I'm trying to do. And George, I did not realize, I need to tell you, let your family know that I would love to record their stories for them. But that's part of the reason why I don't want to just have veterans on once talking about their military experience or their transition or whatever. I want to have you guys on more often, like this, on these panels, to just talk about subjects in general, because I feel like there is so much that the military community can share with everyone that can help and uplift and encourage and inspire us. And it's so easy to take the freedoms we have in this country for granted and to forget about the price that is paid for those freedoms and the individuals who have paid that price and served us. And so these opportunities for you guys to share your stories, to talk about it, to help people really connect with the value of their freedoms and the price and cost is important. And then for you, for veterans, for you guys to understand that people care. People want to hear what you have to say. We care what you think. We want to know your stories. And we find them interesting. We find them useful and uplifting and inspiring. I know it's not always easy to talk about things. I think it's hysterical because George, there's been times where you've been talking to my husband about stuff and he just starts opening up and I'm like, what the crap? When did that happen? Like, I had no clue that happened. And it was just like, I've been talking to your
Yeah.
wife and the same thing. She's like, oh yeah, I learned more about his military service just by sitting there while he talks to another veteran than by ever asking him. Because it's not that you guys don't want to tell us stories. I think you just, when you get with another veteran, you just click on a different level and you open up and you just connect. I have a cousin who's a veteran, and I swear, before he left the Navy and before I married my husband, I'd maybe heard him say two sentences in an entire life growing up. And we lived in the same neighborhood, went to the same schools. I saw this kid almost every day of his childhood, and I never had heard him say more than one sentence at a time. And then the very first Thanksgiving, when I was engaged to my husband and he was getting into the military, and my cousin had just gotten out, they couldn't stop talking. And every family gathering since then, they just like sit in a corner and they talk the whole time. And I'm like trying to record that, or I'm like, I want to record this. But that's, we need your guys' stories. They help us. They inspire us. And I'm so glad I am so glad and grateful for all of the wonderful veterans who come on this show, who share these stories, or just veterans I've known. Even if you don't want to be on the show, it's great. I don't care. I just want to hear your stories. I love talking to veterans. I always have. And so I feel like this has been a really great niche for me because I get to do what I love all the time, and that's talk to veterans. So thank you both for taking the time to come and talk um, just about, Veterans Day and these sorts of things. Are there any projects or things you are working on that you guys would like to talk about and share with my audience? We'll start with George. I
Yeah,
know you were
Sam,
on
thank
just a
you
month
for
ago,
that.
so
Yeah, but for those of you that are new or haven't seen me, I am creating my own YouTube channel. It is called Catholic Veterans Talks, where we talk about the law, the Constitution, how I being a veteran and how being a practicing Catholic kind of shapes my understanding of those things and how all three of them kind of combined. Um, Now, I know it says Catholic Veterans Talks, but I do encourage a wide open platform. I have friends from all walks of life, and I know people and talk to people from different parts of the world. I still talk to a few of my Muslim friends that I made friends with in the military, as well as a couple family members who are other denominations of Christianity, and so I have a wide view, and I encourage people to come onto my channel once I post my new first video in January, and just to talk like you do, Sam. I encourage everybody. It's a wide open platform. It's a wide open option for people to express their opinions, and I hope that it takes off as well as good as yours does, because you actually inspired me to help do this. Um, so I'm giving you props for that one too, because I was toying around with the idea for a couple of years, and then I did my first interview with you, and I was like, you know what, this might actually be something that I would try. So hopefully it works out.
that's awesome. And when it does launch, please make sure you send me all the information so I can promote it on all my social media and get it out to all the different veterans groups I'm working with. There's a lot of veteran YouTubers who I are on their, like, I'm members on their channels and things like that. And I would love to try to get you guys connected because I feel like the more veterans we get talking, the better. You guys with social media have an opportunity to speak for yourselves in a way that veterans in the past haven't always had. So go for it. And I'm super excited for you, George. Okay, Brooks, anything you're working on that you want to tell people about?
Well, first of all, George and Sam, you guys are doing awesome stuff. I mean, I'm not quite at the point where I'd start anything like that yet, but every time I get on one of these calls, my mind starts churning on what I might be able to do or contribute. But last time we talked, Sam, I mentioned a group that one of my he's actually still active duty. One of my buddies started up, and he's calling it the Readiness Action Group, but it's still kind of in the workings of being built. But we it's really a group where we focus on readiness. So like last week, he had one of his special forces medics come out and run a training lane. So, you take your personal medical equipment over there, you run through the lane, and he had all the equipment there, everything from IV stuff to tourniquets, and he even had he had purchased some rib meat so we could practice some of the procedures there, like needle decompression on ribs, stuff like that. But every week we're doing some form of training. But what I'm seeing is that veterans who've gotten out, they're reconnecting on something that they have common interest in, but they're doing it in a healthy, holistic way. And there's talk of even being able to use the group and all the skills shared amongst the veterans in the group to provide training for like churches and schools in the community for like medical readiness or even tactical readiness, because a lot of us were combat MOSs. But yeah, it's just another way, hopefully that idea can spread. Just the veterans that serve together getting out, creating some type of link between themselves and the community, sharing those skills. I feel like it's a huge source of fulfillment that veterans lose when they get out. They feel like they're not able to use those skill sets specifically for ones that don't necessarily apply well, like combat MOSs, to the civilian lifestyle. But in this way, a lot of us who serve together kind of getting together, building each other up, helping each other's families be more prepared for just emergency situations, and also being proactive. So he reaches out to each member of the group weekly to see how you're doing on food storage, water storage, medical equipment. He'll plus us up with stuff that we're missing, and then of course we're planning training events and stuff like that. And we're trying to get to the point where it's including more family members, and then being able to add value to the community. But I just wanted to share that again because, George, if you haven't conceived of that idea, maybe you could kind of spread that idea in your circles, and when you talk to veterans on your channel as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I mentioned that last time. But George, you were going to say something. Go for it.
Sorry, I was having trouble with the mute button there. Um, No, and as you were talking about it, I was like, you know what? That's an awesome idea because I know for my church and surrounding religious establishments, they have actually put out feelers to veterans and off-duty police and things like that to help with preparedness, stuff like that for medical readiness and things, which I know is a weird thing for churches to and religious organizations to do, but it's just the time frame we live in today, unfortunately. So, um, so that is actually something that we have tinkered with. I've never actually thought too heavily on it, outside of just being personally prepared. So that's definitely something I'm going to have to look into. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, when Brooks first brought that up, I was impressed because it was just right around when the issues in North Carolina with the hurricane and everything had happened, and everything I kept hearing was the first people on the ground making a difference, saving lives, and getting to people, all veterans. They were all local veterans groups, just friends who knew each other and were veterans, and one had a pack mule and one was a medic and one had done this and done that, and they were able to get to these remote places and rescue people and save lives. One was a helicopter pilot, and they were all able to do all of this stuff because they were connected and they were prepared. And I am so grateful for those veterans who saved all those lives and helped all those people in North Carolina. And when I heard that Brooks was doing the same thing, I was like, yay for his community. This is an awesome thing that veterans can do to help them feel like they have a mission again, because I know losing the mission when you get out of the military can be hard. And this is a next phase. And so I'm really glad that he's doing that. That got me going on because our church teaches preparedness in general. They tell you to have like a 72-hour kit and supplies of food and medical stuff. But that really got me going. I've got a car kit now that's got a first aid kit. It's got a thing to a battery to jump someone's car. My husband's improved the jacks. We've got a whole toolkit. So and there's been times now where I'm out and about and I can't fix a car, but like someone's battery was dead and I had the little portable battery to just jumpstart their car right away. And so I was able to let them borrow that or different things like that. So there are things that we can do to be more prepared. The other thing my husband and I started talking about lately was ham radios. Our church readiness people are always talking about getting ham radio certified and stuff like that. My sister was just talking about how she was going to be taking a class to get ham radio certified. I'm like, maybe that's something I should look into, or maybe getting a satellite phone or something just in case, you know, the cell network goes down in an emergency, you have a way to communicate and things like that. So there's lots that we can learn from our military veterans. They've got a lot of experience. So for anyone who's listening to this, share your ideas down in the comments below. Um, what are some things you've learned from Veterans, sorry. What are the things you have learned from veterans? How do you celebrate Veterans Day? And who are some veterans you are appreciative of in your life that you have been helped by? Share those comments. Let's get a conversation going. Brooks and George, I am so grateful for you joining me today on the podcast and just contributing your perspectives as veterans. I could sit here and say all I wanted about Veterans Day as a military spouse, and that would be great, but I'm not a veteran. I've not actually been in your shoes. I've seen it from the other side. And while my opinion is still valid and important, it's not the same. And I'm really grateful for you being here, both of you, to share your perspectives on this topic. So thank you so much. Also, if you do know any veterans, my listeners, and I'm saying it to Brooks and George, you too, any veterans out there that would like to have their story preserved for their family or for the future, I'm more than willing to help with that. I love facilitating those conversations. And if you want it to be partly on the podcast, great. That helps with promoting what I do. And if you don't, you want it to stay private, that's fine too. Additionally, if you're okay with it, I am trying to get these into the Library of Congress. It's a long process because, government, red tape, life like that. But I want these stories to continue on. I want these messages and these experiences to be preserved for future generations. And so that's part of what I'm trying to do because it's my little piece of the pie. George is doing one thing, and Brooks, you're doing another thing. And if we all do our things and we all support each other, then we can accomplish so much more. And I'm grateful for that. So thank you all, everyone, for listening. Oh gosh, I'm so out of breath. Okay. As always, I'm your host, Sam Wolf, and you've been listening to Life of a Military Wife. So.
Spouses and veterans, hearts that won't quit, telling the truth about all of it. This life we live is hard and real. Giving
No.
voice to the lives that we live. This life we live is warm but strong, and every story deserves its song.